Hello and welcome to Bottom Line. From no active cases to 40 in no time, Tripura currently has the highest number of active COVID cases in the region. While the situation is critical, perhaps the only solace is that all the cases have surfaced in one spot, making it probably relatively easier for the authorities to go about contact tracing. Nevertheless, there is certainly no room for complacency, and a lot depends on how quickly the state government can get all collected samples tested and complete the contact tracing part. We'll have a discussion on this today on our show, but before that, let's have a look at this report.
As the Ambassa BSF camp in Tripura turns into a COVID hotspot, number of positive cases from the camp of the paramilitary force continues to surge at a rapid pace. 13 more BSF men, including a mess worker, were tested positive for the deadly virus late yesterday evening, taking the total number of active cases in Tripura up to 40. Notably, all the active cases in the state belong to the Ambassa BSF camp. All the active cases are being treated at the GB Pant hospital in the state capital. All the patients were being ferried from the BSF camp to Agartala in special ambulances and buses. Among those tested positive also include a mess worker of the BSF camp, wife and 2 children of a BSF personnel who also have been tested positive for the deadly virus. Meanwhile, at Ambassa in Dholai district of the state, the streets wore a deserted look as 40 people, a majority of them BSF personnel, tested positive in a span of 3 days. While there is no civilian case so far, locals are in no mood to be complacent. Contact tracing measures have been initiated on war footing in the area after the detection of the cases. It may be mentioned that the first BSF Jawan who tested positive was also admitted at the district hospital Dholai. Locals, however, are reassured by the fact that no civilian has tested positive so far. Meanwhile, the Tripura government has also been appealing the people of the state to not panic and strictly follow the health guidelines issued by the state government and the centre in a bid to prevent the spread of coronavirus. With inputs from Kajal Deb in Ambassa and Sudeep Nath in Agartala, News Desk Report, Northeast Live.
Yes, it's a concerning situation in Tripura. The state government has asked people to keep calm. Contact tracing is underway. Samples are being collected not only of the primary contacts, but samples are also being collected of the civilian population in Dholai district. Mind you, the BSF Jawan who was the first to test positive was also, before he tested positive, was admitted to the Dholai district hospital. So a lot of contact tracing to do, and that is underway. To take the discussion forward, I'm being joined by the Maharaja of Tripura, Pradyut Deb Burman from Shillong. And joining me from Agartala is Mr. Pavitra Kaur, the CPIM spokesperson. A very warm welcome to both of you, sir. If I can go to Pradyut Deb Burman first. Pradyut Deb Burman, these are critical times for the state, from no active case to 40 active cases in a span of 3 days. How concerned are you over the prevailing situation? What is your how serious do you think? What is your assessment of how things are shaping up?
A sudden spike in these cases means that the virus had not gone anywhere outside the state. It's only now that we tested the BSF Jawans, and then through their contacts and their subsequent testing, these cases from 0 to 40 have come about. So, of course, I'm concerned. I'm also concerned that this virus does not spread into the civilian population, because right now it's under a confinement. But then if these Jawans have come into contact with the villagers or with people in their day-to-day life, or the doctors who then have subsequently passed it on, then this is a big concern, and I'm extremely worried, like anybody else, that if there is more testing, more could be found out. So yes, we are all keeping our fingers crossed. But the bigger point here is that what are we doing? Rather, we are just hiding away from the virus. Are we doing something to take on the virus? Are we doing something which will help our people understand that more needs to be done? So that's where my bigger concern is.
So what are the reports that you are getting from the ground, even though the outbreak is inside the BSF campus, as you mentioned, but definitely the BSF or paramilitary, for that matter, do come in contact with civilians. So clearly no room for complacency, as you rightly said. So are you satisfied, if I can put it like this, are you satisfied with the pace of contact tracing that has been initiated, especially in Dholai district?
Dholai district is all over Tripura, because you've had traces in Gomati, you've had these people in Gandachara. These are areas which are slightly remote. Ambasa, of course, being the epicenter right now. But my point is, I don't want to indulge in saying that the government is doing a bad job. The government is obviously trying, but the fact is that, was the government prepared? I believe that the government was prepared only to a certain degree, not only in Tripura, but across the country. And the opposition had nothing positive to even offer to the government. So I believe that the lack of preparedness, the lack of response is a collective fault of both the opposition, which is indulging in negative propaganda, and the government, which is looking at event management. So I think on both sides, both the opposition and the government needs to buck up. And this is a big sign to all the people of this country not to depend only on politicians. Democracy does not only depend on one pillar of society. There are different pillars of society, whether it is judiciary, whether it is media, whether it's civil society itself. So I think it's time we stepped up ourselves. Certain states are doing a better job than the other. In my state, I believe that the government needs to engage more with the people. The helplines need to be picked up by people when people call up who are desperate. The government needs to be more proactive. The government cannot depend on one individual to function. In Assam, it is Hemanta Biswa Sarma who is the face which is fighting the COVID. My question is, where are the other people who have been elected? Why aren't they there themselves in the constituencies, in their districts? The same way in Tripura, it cannot be one or two individuals who are supposed to be outsourced the fight against COVID. It has to be everyone, including the people in the opposition, the people in the government, the MLAs, the DMs, the judiciary, the media, everyone.
It's a collective responsibility.
And they cannot be towing a propagandist line.
If I can go to Mr. Pavitra Karna, the CPIM spokesperson, sir, as an opposition leader and more importantly at this moment as a citizen of Tripura, how do you see the current situation in the state where active cases are highest in the northeast?
Practically, we from that first day when the coronavirus lockdown and Janata curfew started, we on behalf of our party, we alarming the government, there is no party, we should fight this pandemic unitedly. We send this message to the government. After that, practically, we tell, but they have make a all-party meeting just few days ago. But that preparation is doing by the government. Some question arises by the people of the Tripura that in a hospital, at a medical college, Govindabad Paul GB Hospital, in this hospital, one block they have maintained for the coronavirus patients. It is unwise. We have a lot of buildings earlier. IGM hospital, there is a separate building of 8 floors. They have choose it. After the Government of India instructions, one separate hospital should be made for only the coronavirus patient. They visited, Chief Minister himself visited, but after that, when the 2 patients come earlier, they gone back to the home with the cure. But after that, government is very, very relaxed in this matter. When this 138 battalion of the BSFs, firstly, 2 Jawans has come. After that, the apprehension of the authority, the tell more will become. But the infections within the Jawans, not only Jawans, where they have gone for the duties, etc., in the bordering area, it is a purely tribal area, Pura's border is there. There may be some spread out of this corona. It is practically now, as of now, more than 40 patients is here in Tripura.
Yes.
It is only from this BSF battalion only. They are cookmen, they are children, etc., etc. People's separation is there, and who are dealing with this, more people may come. But the cautiousness of the government, it is not there. When the ambulance is carrying, they are open. No oxygen is there in the hospital, in this, and they are totally open air. They are coming. They fell down to the street also, the patients, etc. In this way, the authority is doing these corona patients here in our state. Practically, there is very fear psychosis causes mainly now in the Dholai districts and Agartala, where the hospital is there. It's the main hospital of our, and it is a referable hospitals. Same block, other patients are there, same areas are there. Then the main problem another arises, people are not rushed to they close the outdoor also in these hospitals. It is the main hospitals. In this concern, we tell our government they should more serious and serious to deal with the corona patients.
We will take that forward. We will take that forward, Mr. Pavitrakar. Pradyut Burman, when you just said a short while back that everyone has to come together in this battle. We cannot just depend on the politicians or the government. So when you say that, is it not also where someone like you should also step in? You yourself are saying that we just cannot depend on the government and the politicians.
Tripura has probably done the most amount of work, not just in Tripura, but even outside Tripura. Whether it is helping our students or migrant workers in Guwahati, whether it was in Hyderabad, whether it was in Bangalore, Chennai, Kerala, Maharashtra, we have been helping. In Tripura itself, we have helped over 9,000 families. This is big numbers, and we have not taken donation from any political parties or any religious organization. These are self-funded. And when we started with our own money. जब तक लोग पैसा अपने पॉकेट से निकालकर लोगों को नहीं देंगे, वो सोशल मीडिया में if you keep on giving somebody 2 kilos of rice and taking a photograph and then doing a photo op, what comes out of it? And Absolutely. Let me tell you one more thing. Lot of people go and give 5 kilos of rice, dal, with the picture of the leader or a flag of the political party. Those people, उनको तो लेना पड़ेगा because उनको दाल चावल चाहिए. लेकिन they also have self-respect. क्योंकि they don't have rice and food ration right now, they are taking it. But to do this and then to put it up in Facebook and Instagram and say we have helped 5 people, what are we doing? This is not the time for us to be Congress, BJP, CPM, AGP, any party. This is the time for us to help each other irrespective of our political and religious affiliation. So, yes, my organization has done it and we have done a very good job, and now we have also announced a further fund where whoever is stranded outside Tripura and wants to come back, we will also contribute in cash to help them to come back. Of course, they will have to contribute something on their own.
Good to hear that.
But we are doing it from our own pockets.
Yeah, good to hear of the initiatives.
These are very important things.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Mr. Pavitrakar, you just mentioned how allegedly how proper precautions are not being maintained, especially while transporting patients. In fact, even yesterday, there were reports that a few patients were transported in an ambulance which only had a lone driver without any other health official or personnel on board. So, do you think somewhere there was a lack of coordination as far as the health department, the state health department is concerned, probably at this juncture? And if the allegation of the driver is right, things should be done in a more systematic and secure way, because these are critical times. We have 42 cases and counting.
I have tell earlier also, you should not be there. They should escorted by other police personnel or any personnel. This ambulance should be escorted. But it is freely coming. Without any man, only the driver is the authority. One can control by a driver. It is openly come up to the media. For that, practically, this precaution should be there. There is a fear psychosis along the all streets now in the national highway, and this way where they come to the GB hospitals. For that, practically, we tell today also, the government should not only give the lectures, not to the only medias, they should make precaution to deal with the coronavirus, patients and other things. Now it is almost open. Now only the Dholai district is a red zone. Some restrictions is imposes there. Here in Agartala and other districts, not too much people are coming. After 7, there is a, 7 to 5 it is, some imposition is there. But after the coming of these BSF Jawans, it is a very much necessary to alert of the authority. Not only the health authority, other authorities should be involved, mainly the police personnel, mainly the paramilitary forces, etc. They should escort these patients, they should keep vigilance of this area.
Absolutely, we are still waiting. We are still waiting for a reaction from Mr. Ratanlal Nath. He had assured that he will get back to this after taking a report from the concerned authorities. Still waiting for the report. Maybe it has come. We'll keep an update of that. Mr. Pradyut Debarban, also every time it becomes a government versus opposition thing when a crisis erupts, thankfully, it's not at its peak now in most states during this time of the pandemic. But keeping this apart, as somebody, I'm talking about you, as somebody who is in the thick of things in Tripura, do you see the government also taking suggestions from the opposition, from social organizations and parties, or from the Maharaja maybe? Are they being accommodating enough to take suggestions at a time when, discussions are also a must? Yes, they are doing their job, but there's no harm in taking suggestions. We do know that there has been an all-party meet.
No, the Chief Minister did call for an all-party meet.
Yes.
I have personally speaking to the Chief Minister. So, the government is listening. But the problem is, listening is one part of the job. Implementation of what we are saying, implementation of what the Chief Minister himself is telling us on Twitter is not happening to the optimum on the ground. I'll give you an example, the helplines. I call up the helplines, it took me 5 days to get through to the helpline. So the helplines are not responsive. People get desperate. A lot of people who are outside have lost their jobs. These are not blue-collared workers. ये लोग रेस्टोरेंट में काम करते हैं, सिक्योरिटी गार्ड्स है, मॉल्स में सिक्योरिटी का काम करते हैं. They want to come back, उनको वापस आना है. जब वो फोन हेल्पलाइन में लगाते और फोन का रिस्पांस नहीं होता, दे गेट पैनिकी. लैंडलॉर्ड्स बोलते कि वापस चले जाओ, क्योंकि नॉर्थ ईस्ट से आपको सरकार आपको ला रही है. अब हेमंत बिस्व शर्मा आपको ला रहा है, कॉन्राड सांगमा ला रहा है, त्रिपुरा नहीं ला रहा है, पेमा खांडू ला रहा है. तो नाउ उनको लगता है कि नॉर्थ ईस्ट ला रहा है. नॉर्थ ईस्ट में 8 डिफरेंट स्टेट्स हैं. त्रिपुरा हैज टू टेक स्टेप्स. त्रिपुरा हैज टू रिस्पॉन्ड. एंड द ओनली वे यू कैन रिस्पॉन्ड टू पीपल आउटसाइड is by actually responding to the helpline. So government is listening, but the work on the ground
but
has
every
to improve
state,
a lot more.
Every state does have the helpline numbers in place. Mr. Pavitra Kaur, do you think, given the prevailing situation in Tripura, in the state, of course, all the cases are restricted to Dholai, Ambasa, but do you think without creating further panic, the government should implement stricter lockdown norms should be in place across the state, because chances cannot be taken? Yes, there's only probably one COVID hotspot, the BSF camp, but then again, you never know until your contact tracing part is over. At least 14 days from now, you never know. So do you think stricter lockdown norms should be implemented immediately if it is not being done?
It is there. Government has already opened the liquor shops, foreign liquor shops. There is a lot of people's queues are there. There is no things of these social distancing. It is seen in the Agartala city, not only Agartala city, all over the states. Is it necessary to open the foreign liquor shops? It is not a necessary thing also. For that, practically, I have seen that Kerala government is still now, they are not opening these liquor shops. We have seen in the Delhi, Calcutta, in our Agartala, and all over the, where the liquor shop is open, there is no social distances, there is a queue, all these things are going on. In the markets, now it is peoples are very conscious in our state, people's buying when they are going there, they are maintaining some protocol, etc. also. The authority of the market, authority of the administrations and the police, they are trying to maintain, though rush is there in the morning day. In other shops, it is already
but
okay
you think,
in our
yes,
state.
yes, more has to be done. More has to be done. Pradyut Debarman, do you think as a state, Tripura has prepared well? For instance, you have Assam. You have to give it to Assam to have done extensive homework and act accordingly, even when the first case was detected in the region. I mean, Assam...
Sorry. You have to only give it to Hemanta Biswa Sarma.
Absolutely, yes.
And maybe Piyush. Yeah. So you can't give it to Assam. You have to give it to Piyush and Hemanta Biswa Sarma. There are 124 other MLAs in Assam. Most of them, some are of course working. Most of them are just keeping quiet.
Yes, so coming back to my question, Mr. Debarman, do you think Tripura has responded well? I mean, when you have all the patients being brought to the GB hospital in Agartala, why not convert the entire hospital into a COVID hospital, as Mr. Pavitra Kaur just mentioned a short while back? Why not?
I think GB is the biggest hospital in Agartala.
Yes.
And it should not have been converted. Maybe another hospital should have been converted, because there are other patients who have cancer, who have tuberculosis, who have other heart ailments. And if GB becomes a COVID hospital and they have to shut it down, where do other patients who have other diseases come to? So I think my suggestion is that there should be other hospital in Agartala itself, in the periphery, which should be converted into a COVID hospital, and GB should still be a hospital for other patients with other illnesses to come to. That's my view.
All right, but
because if GB shuts down, like the Jaslok hospital in Bombay or other hospitals, because there are the doctors have got corona and the entire place has become a hotspot, then where do people go to? You have to build up your infrastructure beyond your existing main hospital. So the government needs to do something like that.
All right. My last question to you, Pradyut Debarman, what would you want to say to the state government at this moment in these times of crisis? What would you like to say to Chief Minister Biplab Deb?
Act, test and listen. But after listening, act again. And please, my only urge is spend money. The people of Tripura need to be brought back. The people in the villages need rice. Everybody is stepping up for that. But right now, spend. Your money will come back. But if you don't have lives to defend, if your public, your people get frustrated, you will have a problem in your hands. And I also have a message to the opposition. In the Communist Party, in the Congress Party, we have over 50 to 60 ex-MLAs who get a good amount of pension. Rather than complaining, why don't you put 50% of your pension and ensure that people get help? Right now, you are only playing politics, you are not helping. Put the money where the problem is. Don't make long speeches. We are putting our own resources, we are going and helping, we are doing our best. It's time for you all leaders who pretend to be leaders to put the money where your mouth is.
Absolutely, absolutely well said, Pradeep Debarman. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Pavitra Kaur and Pradeep Debarman for joining me. We'll have to slip into a very short break here. On the other side, we'll have our correspondents from all the states joining us live to give an update from their respective states for the day. We'll also have a couple of doctors to speak on the race for the vaccine, the COVID vaccine, and what does it mean, how soon, if at all we have a breakthrough, how much time will it take for the vaccines to reach the market. Stay tuned. Welcome back. You're watching Bottom Line. In these times of pandemic, if the entire world is waiting for something, that has to be a vaccine for the COVID-19. With countries working on it, at least 2 to 3 nations have claimed to be very near to a breakthrough. And even if there's a breakthrough, how much time will it take for things to materialize? How much time will it take for the vaccine to come to the markets? How much time it will take for it to come to India? These are questions that everybody is asking. I am being joined by Dr. Prakritish Bora of Excel Care Hospital from Guwahati as of now. Thank you, Dr. Bora, for joining us on Bottom Line. Dr. Bora,
thank you.
As we know, from Israel to Italy to the US, everybody is in the race to reach the vaccine first. Can we be hopeful? Can you be hopeful? Can we see something in near future? What is your assessment?
Yeah, normally the process of developing a vaccine takes a couple of, a few years to several years actually. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Go ahead.
Yeah, but with COVID, the situation has been different because we have had 2 epidemics in the past. One of the so-called the COVID-1 and the MERS epidemic which happened in the Middle East. So because of these 2 epidemics, the scientific the gain that we had for those 2 viruses which aborted, and the process of scientific research and advancement has stopped. So because we have the knowledge about these 2 viruses who simulate this present COVID-19 virus, the CoV-S1 virus resembles this virus about by 80%, and the MERS virus resembles it by about 50%. So that is the scientific advantage, or the upfront that we are in terms of research and development we are in.
Okay.
So about 100 vaccines are in the process of development, and the news that has come out today, that the Italians have developed a antibody which has given good immunological response in the mice and has even shown it in human as well. So this is I think has to be established, and the other one is being a monoclonal antibody, which will be more like a treatment, not a vaccine. The monoclonal antibodies are also similar kind of things. They attack. They stimulate your immune system to work against this virus. So this will work more like a treatment. So whichever comes up will be a boon to the COVID-19 situation that we have now.
And also at the same time, if we do have a breakthrough anytime soon, technically how much time would it take for it to hit the markets? For instance, even say in the US or Italy or Israel, wherever it is done, how much time will it take to hit the markets? And eventually, how much more time will it take to reach, say, India?
Right. So if I get your question correctly, So see how much time it normally takes for a vaccine to come to the market,
Yeah.
get a licensing, and come to
Yes.
India for
Yes.
yeah, come to Indian market. So the process of developing a vaccine, involves a few steps. So the preclinical step and then clinical trials. So all this makes about 4 or 5 steps. But probably these steps we were a little ahead because of the previous infections that we have had with corona viruses, which were other types. So we could have saved time in this. But again, in my opinion, I was hoping that even if the vaccine comes by 2021, we'll be lucky. But now that the news have come to us that it has been already developed, so my only questions will be a few. One will be when we produce a vaccine. So after the trials that we give, then the question of licensing comes. When we have to deliver it to mass in the scale of millions, then we need to license the vaccine to different countries. So WHO has to work fast in licensing this vaccine. Number one. Number two, large scale production. So I am sure this cannot be done by Italy or any other Western country alone. So we have to be involved. India, China, all the countries which are with massive population has to be involved in the process of producing this vaccine. Only then we'll be able to provide this vaccine to the entire mankind all over the world. And third thing is about the cost, because of the rapidity and the war food like research we have to do to develop this vaccine. So the cost must have been enormous. So how much cost this vaccine will be priced at, or what will be the cost of this vaccine? So those are the few questions that I have in mind. But again, without clear-cut answers for these questions.
And by now, do you think across, I'm not talking about the researchers, but across, the medical fraternity as doctors, be it in COVID hospitals, be it in private, of course, those who are, in the field of medicine, do you think we more or less have now understood the nature of the virus, which is required because it is here to stay?
Could you come again, please? I couldn't hear.
Yeah, what I'm saying is that by now, do you think as medical professionals, as doctors, not only in COVID hospitals, but also say private hospitals, as medical professionals, have we understood the nature of the virus? Because this virus is here to stay for some time. It's very important that we all understand its nature, not just those dealing with those cases, because probably it will be here for a year and a half or two, or maybe long. We don't know. We can't say. So can we safely say that yes, majority of the medical fraternity by now does understand the nature of this virus?
Yeah, I get your question. It's a good question. In the sense that, yeah, we have understood the disease now. The differences that the disease has from other kind of viruses or other kind of pneumonias or other kind of ARDSs. So this has an entirely different picture in the city, or this has an entirely different kind of presentation when it comes to clinical presentation, how a person will be affected. We have come to know about a lot of things, that this virus may not give you fever, it may not give you sore throat, it may not give you cough. It may simply present with diarrhea and vomiting. It may also present with stroke. It may also present with heart disease. So there are a lot of things which have come to light, and we are aware about this virus's newer presentations or newer mode of behavior. So there are a lot of things which are clear to us. But again, it is like doing it in simulation. I mean, we are learning about the virus. It is like learning to drive on the computer. I mean, you can drive the car on the computer, but again, driving the car on the real road is different. So now we have known that these are the patients will behave like this, but we have not treated real patients as of now, especially in Guwahati, especially in the Northeast, I guess. So treating real patients will give us a lot more confidence, and it will give us a lot more assurance in terms of confidence or whatever you call it, so that we'll be able to do better for patients in this part of the country. Hopefully, that situation should not come. But as medical personnel, I feel more confident now that if I get a patient, maybe I'll be able to handle this patient. But God forbid, I prefer that the situation like this do not come to our northeast part of the country.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Dr. Praktish Bora, for joining us on Bottom Line.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. We're being joined by our correspondents from the other states to give us updates. Gautam Sharma joins us from Imphal. Sarah Konyak is also online from Kohima. Gautam, the state government, the Manipur government today decided to reimpose some of the restrictions. Why was the government forced to do that, Gautam?
Narun, in suppression of the earlier order that was giving a certain certain degree of relaxation, which is 12-hour relaxation in the daytime from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. and the curfew was only imposed from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. And this relaxation provided to the people of the state has brought an unwanted scene. That is the number of commuters commuting in the number of people commuting in the street was drastically increased, and the peoples were gathered in masses in shops and everywhere. So the state authority has witnessed such unwanted scene after the relaxation was being provided. So the state government deliberated the issue and decided to reinforce the previous phase 2, which was phase 2 lockdown, which started from 20th of April. To avoid any unwanted situations.
Absolutely, Gautam, and also the Chief Minister has again stressed that expenses of those who are stranded outside will be borne by the state completely. Has he made any announcement as to when the second or the third batch will start coming? Gautam, any update on that?
Yes, Narun, the state cabinet has also decided to bear only for the train fares for those people stranded across the country, and any other mode of transport will be borne by the individual themselves, as the state is only going to bear the train fare for the train travel expenses. And besides that, the government is also ready to give 200 rupees per person for food for those people coming from outside if they stay in the quarantine center, and those people who wanted to come by themselves through other private vehicles should be borne by themselves only. And as more than nearly about 84 from Guwahati, Manipur, Bawan has already reached Manipur, and they had been tested for COVID-19, and all of them has been found negative. And all those expenses for bringing back those stranded people from Guwahati has been borne by the state government.
Absolutely.
As already the expenses was more than 14 lakhs for fooding and lodging.
Absolutely. Roshan, you have been there when another fleet of buses reached Shillong today, bringing more stranded people, workers, students from other parts of the northeast. As per the inputs that we got, Roshan, all the people after screening, which means taking of temperatures, have been sent to home quarantine. Any update on whether some of them will be tested, or that's because they are asymptomatic right now, no signs, so there's just they will be put in home quarantine for now? Is that how it's going to be, Roshan?
Yes, this is something which was planned, and it is being executed as per the plan, and also following the protocols that are being laid down. A few buses have already reached around 3 to 4 buses carrying a few passengers who were stranded all across the Assam. And yes, the buses, say around 21 of them left this morning, and like I mentioned, 4 have already reached out here. And as on arrival, they had to register, and after that, the district administration had arranged vehicles for them, and they were sent to their respective locations. And all of them who reach here, they have already been screened and tested. Tested as in, if those who have symptoms, they'll be tested, and if positive, it will be sent for reconfirmation for the RT-PCR test. Those who have already reached here, they are all screened. They have been screened, and they registered here. And from here on, they have been sent back to their respective places. cases. And similar is the situation elsewhere as well. Talk about Garo Hills.
And Roshan, yes, today most of them who are coming from Assam. Of course, there are no red zones anymore here. Some orange zones. But say, for instance, if somebody is coming from an orange zone also in Assam, would they be then tested or anything like that that you know of? There are some orange zones still, no red zones. Almost the whole of Assam is also a green zone, but some orange zones are there. If somebody, for instance, is coming from orange zone, will he be dealt with differently? Any updates on that?
Well, the state government has been very clear about the steps that they'll be taking to contain the infection. And yes, as per the plans, if it's anybody returning from red zone, then definitely they'll be quarantined for not 14 days, but 28 days. That is a mandatory thing that will happen. And it does not apply just to those who are returning from the northeastern state, but the entire country as well, who will, of course, return during the second phase of bringing them back.
And Roshan, are more people coming tomorrow too? And also, my question to you, you know, a lot of people are going to home quarantine. Is anybody keeping a watch whether, you know, and that has to be apart from the law enforcing authorities, at the same time, it has to be probably the traditional heads. You know, they had a meeting with the Chief Minister. Chief Minister called them for a meeting last week. They were briefed of the need of the hour. So are the localities also pitching in as far as, you know, these people going for a 14-day home quarantine? Probably also maybe we assume that most of these people are responsible enough to understand the meaning of a home quarantine. But we've also seen cases where people have violated things in the past, not in Meghalaya, I'm saying, but across the country. So is the district administration especially also in touch with the localities, probably the Dorbars, to probably keep a tag on things?
Yes, there are layers of protection that has been put in place, and not just now. Preparation has been on since long ago, keeping in mind that there will be a lot of returnees from the northeastern state as well as the entire country. Yes, the state government, the health machineries, the corona team, they'll be monitoring them when they are at home. They'll be calling them every day on a daily basis, taking an update whether they have any symptoms or not, and if there are symptoms, the need be, they'll go visit them and even take them for testing. Take their swab collection for testing if the need be. Well, that is there. That is one layer of it. The other layer, as we all know, Nabarun, since a long time, Meghalaya has been very proactive in involving, in fact, going together. Inviting for community participation, and this has been a very, very effective tool as far as fighting the COVID is also concerned. Yes, definitely all the Rangbashnongs, everybody, they have been interacting with the state authorities time and again. And just recently also saw there was a exhaustive meeting that was held, and all for to get their support and to move ahead together in this. And various other committees have also been formed, comprising of the magistrates, the health officials, the headmen, the local headmen, and other members of the society as well, so that it does not only
but eventually
to home quarantine and monitoring from the state authorities, but also it goes down to the
eventually it's people's it's the people's participation, it's the people's responsibility. Roshan, thank you for all those updates. If I can go to Sarah Konyak in Kohima, if Sarah is connected. Sarah, there was a meeting today, of course. Nagaland is concerned about the economy. Could you very briefly give us the details of that meeting?
Yes, a press briefing was held today by the state spokesperson to bring into the notice that the state is going through a very hard time. The finance department and the chief minister had also already announced and declared that the state is going through a financial crisis. And the chief minister had also written to the prime minister, bringing him into the notice of the state's financial crisis that is going on right now. And as we are all aware that Nagaland state is dependent on, especially on the funds that is provided by the central government, and there is not much generation to generate revenue in the state. And the government is now pressing and stressing on the importance to focus on the agri and allied sector and also on progressive entrepreneurs. The state spokesperson, Mr. Niba Krenu, also had a meeting with the entrepreneurs and different organizations in the state today. And the Chief Minister will also be convening a meeting on the 8th of May to discuss on these issues.
And Sarah, very quickly, any more updates on Nagaland's plan of getting the stranded residents of the state from other parts of the northeast and eventually from other parts of the country? Any plans? When will the first batch arrive? Any information on that so far?
No particular dates have been fixed. What we have been informed is that the state government will be first working on the intra-district movement of stranded individuals within the state. And this exercise will start from tomorrow, that is May 7th, till May 9th for 3 days. So once these people are moved to their respective villages and districts, the government will start working on bringing back of the stranded people from the other cities, and our committee has also been formed to come up with an action plan. They have been working on this for the past few weeks. And Naburun, so far, 6,000 students, 16,000 working people, and 300 patients have been identified so far. The government wants to ensure that there is no chaos and the returnees face no kind of inconvenience during this entire time of process. So once this intra-district movement of stranded individuals are settled, the government will start with the first batch of the bringing back the stranded people from the other cities.
All right. Thank you so much, Sarah Konyak, Roshan Rai, Gautam Sharma, for all those updates. Thanks indeed. Well, I'm being joined from Shillong by Dr. Sinrang Warjri of the Nazareth Hospital. Again, continuing the discussion on the COVID vaccine. Dr. Warjri, we have been getting news of certain breakthroughs as far as a vaccine for COVID-19 is concerned. Does that make you excited? Can we expect good things very soon?
It's very exciting to hear news about vaccine, because it does seem that the only way this pandemic will stop is we have a vaccine. There is no other way out of this. There is no other exit strategy. So it is very exciting. It is interesting to have these reports about vaccines. It's in fact everywhere they're getting vaccines. Our own Serum Institute in Pune is planning for a vaccine. According to them, they're hoping for a vaccine by September this year. That is optimistic, very optimistic. But it's difficult to say, because ideally a vaccine takes around 10 years to 20 years to develop, which includes everything from testing and trials and post-market surveillance. So that is usually, a vaccine usually takes 10 to 20 years. So to have a vaccine within a year, that would be risking a lot of things, including
but
safety
we have had exciting news coming in. There's something that I asked. I had another doctor on my panel from Guwahati, from the Axel Care Hospital. The same question I would want to ask you. As doctors in COVID hospitals who are working in dedicated COVID hospitals and dealing with cases day in and day out now, probably they have by now good understanding of the nature of the virus, but also taking into account the fact that this virus maybe is here to stay for a year or two, or maybe more, or maybe we have to live with it like the rest of the others until, and that's why so much focus on the vaccine. But do you think, as medics, as professionals, as doctors now, by and large, across the medical fraternity, even if you are not working in a COVID hospital, you have a fair knowledge by now of how the virus works? Because you as a doctor could also encounter it in your private clinic even. You never know if it stays here for long. So do you think by now, as medics, we have a fair understanding of the virus overall, not just those working in COVID hospitals? Personally, from your personal experience, can you say?
Yeah, I think when it comes to diagnosing the cases and identifying cases, we have a fair knowledge now as to what exactly this virus does, what organs in the body it targets very fast. And so when we put everything into the picture, including travel history, contact history, and clinical symptoms and tests, so it is we understand how it works and how does the virus evolve with the patient, symptoms-wise, and how do they recover, right? So that is, we've got a good idea, but that is not enough. we really need to get ahead of it. As of now, we still don't have any cure. We don't have any medicine. We don't have any strategy as in terms of vaccine. There are so many candidates for vaccine, but none of them has. It'll take time for the vaccine. It will take time. I think we're not going to get a vaccine by the end of this year.
Oh. My last question, very briefly, Dr. Virji, we're running out of time. We know that hundreds are coming in, or close to 1,000 people have stranded in other parts of the Northeast, have already entered Meghalaya, have reached Shillong. They're being sent to home quarantine after screening. How much of a responsible role it is for the society to play now to ensure that these people strictly remain in home quarantine?
Yeah, so we're opening up the borders to a certain extent. We don't know how safe is that going to be. Quarantine is the only way out, and the government is very strict about, everyone has to be endorsed, and the role of the community becomes very important now. Individually, even the homes, they need to really support these people who are coming in, and they need to stay indoors. They need to really, really stick to that quarantine. Otherwise, one false move from one wrong move from somebody, it could hamper. It could just be it could blast an explosion somewhere. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Dr. Vajri, for joining us from Shillong. Well, we still hope that there's a miracle, and yes, there's been a breakthrough. We hope for a vaccine soon. It'll still take months probably to reach the markets, but nevertheless, we have come this far. We will do better in future. That's a wrap of Bottom Line.